A Treatise of Satan's Temptations. By Richard Gilpin. A Discourse of the Malice, Power, Cruelty and Diligence of Satan. Second part of Chapter 12. Of Satan's perverting our reason. His second way of blinding. The possibility of this, and the manner of accomplishing it directly, several ways, and indirectly, by the delights of sin, and by sophistical arguments, with an account of them. 2. Secondly, lusts also pervert our reason and knowledge indirectly, and this is, when we are not so far blinded as to believe, the thing unto which we are tempted, to be good absolutely. Yet notwithstanding, we are persuaded of some considerable goodness in it, and such as may for the present be embraced. For this purpose, Satan hath ready these two engines. 1. First, he sets before us the pleasures, profits, and other delights of sin. These he heightens with all his art and skill, that he may fix in our minds this conclusion, that however it be forbidden, yet it would conduce much to our satisfaction or advantage, if it were practiced. And here he promiseth such golden ends and fruits of sin, as indeed it can never lead unto, inviting us in the words of the harlot, I have decked my bed with coverings of tapestry, with carved works, with fine linen of Egypt. I have perfumed it with myrrh, aloes, and cinnamon. Come, let us take our fill of these delights. Proverbs 7:16. Thus, he said upon Eve, Take this fruit, and ye shall be as gods. Thus he attempted Christ himself, All these will I give thee, Matthew 4:9, proffering the kingdoms of the world, and the glory of them. The pleasures of sin are Satan's great bait, and these strongly invite and stir up our lusts. Yet because the fear of the danger may stick in the heart, it is pleasant, but I dare not, saith the sinner, I fear the hazard or the evil that may follow. Therefore Satan hath his other engine at hand to blind us, and to carry our minds from such considerations, and that is 2. Secondly, his sophistical arguments, by which the danger may be lessened. Of these his quiver is full, as 1. First, he urgeth that the sin tempted to is little. But a little one, it is not, saith he, so great a matter as you make it, there are other sins far greater, and these also practiced by men, that profess as much as you. Thus he would shame us, as it were, out of our fear, by calling it severity, niceness, or an unnecessary preciseness. If this prevail not. 2. Secondly, he hath then another argument. Oh, saith he, be it so, that it is a little more than ordinary, yet it is but once. Taste or try it, you need not engage yourselves to frequent practice, you may retreat at pleasure. But if the fear of the danger prevail against this, then 3. Thirdly, he labors to put us under a kind of necessity of sinning, and this he pleads as a justification of the evil. It is not altogether right, but you cannot well avoid it. This plea of necessity is large. Occasion, example, command of others, strength of inclination, custom, and what not, are pleaded by him in this case. Some particularly reckon them up. And rather than some men will acknowledge the evil, they will blame God's decree, as if they were necessitated by it, or his providence, as Adam, the woman that thou gavest me, she gave me of the tree. David's bloody resolve, against the house of Nabal seems to be justified by him, from Nabal's great ingratitude, in vain have I kept all that this fellow hath in the wilderness, etc. 1 Samuel 25:21. And as one engaged by a necessity of repaying such wrongs, and affronts, doth he determine to cut them off. Aaron, when he was taxed by Moses about the golden calf, excuseth the matter by a pretended necessity, of doing what he did upon the violent importunity, of such a heady people, Exodus 32:22. And that when Moses was not to be found, thou knewest the people, that they are set on mischief. This that he urged to Moses, Satan no doubt had urged to him, and he had acquiesced in it, as something that he thought would excuse, or at least mitigate the offense. Yet if the sinner break through the snare. 4. Fourthly, he comes on with a softer plea of infirmity, and endeavors to persuade men, that they may yield under pretense of being forced, and that their strivings and reluctances will lessen the evil, to an apparent sin of infirmity. And thus he bespeaks them, have not God's children infirmities? They sin, though with reluctancy, and dost not thou resist? Doth not the fear that is in thy heart show an unwillingness? Mayest thou not plead, the evil that I would not do, that do I? If thou yield, will not God account it a rape upon thine integrity? If this arrow stick not. 5. Fifthly, then he extenuates the offense by propounding some smaller good, or convenience that may follow that evil. And this, though it be a way of arguing directly, contrary to that rule, do not evil that good may come, yet it oft proves too successful. And it is like that common stratagem of war, when, by the proposal of a small booty in view, the enemies are drawn out of their hold into a fore-contrived danger. Thus Satan pleads, this one act of sin may put you into a capacity of honoring God the more. Some have admitted advancements and dignities against conscience, upon no better ground but that they might keep out knaves, and that they might be in a condition to be helpful to good men. Surely the devil prevailed with Lot by this weapon, when he offered the prostitution of his daughters to the lusts of the Sodomites, that the strangers, as he thought them, might be preserved. By this evil, thinks he, a greater may be avoided. Herod's conscience could not at first consent to the cutting off the head of John Baptist, but when Satan suggests the obligation of his oath, he concludes that in the killing of John, he should escape the violation of the oath. Thus a pretended good to come becomes a pander, to a present certain iniquity. Now if after all these arguings, the conscience carrieth an apprehension of danger, then 6. He plainly disputeth the possibility of the escape of danger, though the sin be committed. All the insinuations of pleasure and advantage, by which Eve was tempted, could not at first blot out her fears of the consequence, of that transgression. It did stick in her mind still, lest we die. Then Satan plainly denieth the danger she feared, ye shall not surely die. The threatening, saith he, it may be, was but for trial, or without a strict and positive purpose in God, to execute it. There is no certainty, that God was in good earnest when he spake so. The devil usually urgeth the mercy of God, the merits of Christ, his promises of pardon, the infirmities of the saints, their sins and repentances, etc. From all these drawing this conclusion, that we may venture upon the temptation, without any apparent hazard. It is but repenting, saith he, and that is an easy work to a gracious soul. God is ready to be reconciled, even to a prodigal son. He is not so cruel as to cast away any for a small matter. He that waits to be gracious will not lie at catch for opportunities and occasions to destroy us. He that delights not in the death of a sinner will not delight to take strict exceptions against every failing. If Satan can prevail with us to extenuate the sin, to slight the hazard, or any way to lessen it upon any of the forementioned accounts, then having possessed us before, with high apprehensions of delights and satisfactions in the sin, he quickly persuades to accept the motion, as having a conveniency and advantage in it not to be despised, and thus doth he indirectly pervert our reason, which is the second way, by which he blinds us through the working of our lust. Thanks.